and get into this episode, I just really want to give a huge shout out to Brandy Carlos. At I am Brandy Carlos on IG. You can also find her at Therapy for Latinx and at Healing for Latinx. She is amazing, always sharing all of the resources, connecting, gifting all the tools. Brandy is actually the person that connected me to Monica Lorraine. She's like, you need to talk to her. You all need to connect. There's something here. And she was right. The second I started speaking to Monica, I felt an instant pull. For a few months now, I had been really thinking about investing in a business coach. And so when I met Monica, I absolutely gravitated towards her style because she uses astrology, of course, your sign, but she also pulls in your birth chart. She uses tarot. She uses human design chart, which we're going to learn more about. She has so many different techniques under her belt that she's been trained on for many, many years now that she uses to apply to coaching you through life. When I heard that, it was like, oh my goodness, this sounds perfect. It sounds like it's aligned with Let There Be Lose. And I love this idea. I have to admit though, I did have to push through blocks as we were about to move into getting my chart read. I'm all about really tapping into our intuition and strengthening that relationship and not necessarily seeking outside resources or being codependent, I should say, on outside resources. So I did have to push through a lot of blocks as we were approaching the day of getting my chart read and tapping into the tools and maybe even potentially thinking about, could this be my business coach? Is this the person that I have been thinking about? Did I attract her? I think what I fear most is having to be misdirected or misguided, knowing that my internal compass has always steered me in the right direction. But here is the thing that I'm coming to understand more and more is that I really need to get into the space where I start to create my team again. And why not have an asset like this that forms part of my team? And I want to be really clear on what a team means. A team doesn't necessarily mean someone you employ. It can also mean someone you invest in to give you guidance. So a coach would be part of your team. That is an asset that you can add to your overall operation on how you run your business. There is still some clearing that needs to be done, but I can feel that if I could dream up a coach, it would be Monica. Today, what you're going to get to experience is my birth chart reading, and you will begin to feel the energy start to clear. It's not a scary experience, and if you've been listening to the podcast and you know all the episodes, then you're going to see the clarity and how this tool could really change the game on how you run your life and how you run your business. It's practically the same experience as someone else being able to call out your shadows, except she's actually seeing it on a chart that is a snapshot of where the stars were the moment you were born. I also feel that if you're running and conducting your own business, then you are ready for a relationship like this. And the fears that I have are immediately eliminated in the sense that I have confidence in myself, I have confidence in my intuition, and I'm able to really outline the picture for Monica where she can actually fill in the color with what she sees. And so I think that when you have a client and coach relationship in this way, it's a professional relationship. And the idea of codependency or any type of toxic relationship like that is pretty much out the window. Also, Monica doesn't have to take me on as a client. She vets everyone she sees. The chemistry has to be right. There has to be something that she sees in her client that she knows the client is ready for this type of experience with her specifically. And more importantly, myself as an entrepreneur, or if you're listening to this as an entrepreneur, we have to be able to also know how to stand our ground and draw boundaries and identify who comes in to our team, who becomes part of your council per se, don't ever forget the power that you hold and make sure you're not giving it away. Let's not waste any more time and jump right into Monica Lorraine's medicine.
It's about what people can learn about themselves, right? Mm-hmm. And how they can take that information and how they can actually apply it in their daily life. You know, I always laugh and I tell people, I don't speak astrology, I speak English. And what I mean by that is oftentimes, I remember in the beginning, when I first started looking into getting my chart done and stuff, they would lose me. The astrologers would lose me with all their terminology and their astrology talk. And I'm like, if I knew what the hell you were saying, I wouldn't need your service. I would just go read my own chart, right? So I really try and bring it down into the most practical terms that you guys can like take and use in your daily life immediately.
And just like that, I began to feel extremely comfortable with Monica. And I realized that what I had been fearing was not being able to have a two-way conversation, that someone was just going to look into some crystal ball and tell me all of this scary information that I wouldn't be able to understand, or more importantly, contribute to. And then this happened.
But most importantly, it's about validating what they already know in their heart to be true, but they really have no way to prove it, right? And then a total stranger opens up your chart and you're like, oh my God, I've been following this inner guidance system this whole time and it has not led me astray.
And all I heard was, I see you. I see you, and I know you know where you're going. I'm simply here to confirm those decisions that might sometimes be challenging for you to make, or you might need a little bit of a push making them.
There's a couple of different names that a birth chart goes by. Some people call it your natal chart. Some people call it your birth chart. Some people call it your astrology chart. It's all the same thing. I like to say it's like your astrological blueprint or roadmap. It tells me as the astrologer how this individual is wired psychologically and emotionally. And it tells me the different life lessons that might be a theme that might have come up already or maybe will come up. Sometimes we can recognize them as patterns that we've repeated. Some we really like and some we don't. It also tells me a lot about their natural gifts, talents, and abilities and what they're majoring in this particular lifetime, in this incarnation. And I always ask my clients, do you believe that there is a possibility that we have more than one lifetime? And based on their answer, I know how deep I can go with the chart. If you look at this entire chart, it's like a snapshot of the sky the moment that you were born. It's like somebody walked outside, looked up and said, okay, let me take a picture of the sky and all the placements of the planets. It doesn't change. Our whole life, it stays the same. I will show you in a moment what does change and how I'm able to see kind of where a person is on their journey.
And now we get into the good stuff. I always keep parts of these experiences that are most nearest and dearest to my heart. But as you know, this is a blog cast. It is a documentary of my spiritual journey. You've been part of so many experiences, and I think what's going to be really cool about this one in particular is that we're going to see previous experiences come together.
We know that based on Jupiter being at 29 degrees, which is the same degree here as the beginning of your fifth house, I know that on or around November 4th, 2018, because that's the date it says up here.
Were you able to catch that exhale? As soon as she called out that date, I knew exactly where she was headed.
November 4th, 2018, because that's the date it says up here. Something shifted in your fifth house. And fifth house is the house of creative self-expression. It's how we creatively express our gifts, our talents, and our abilities. It doesn't matter if we are an artist, a poet, a hairdresser, an astrologer, an entrepreneur, a healer. It doesn't matter. The point is that we are finding creative and unique ways to express this part of ourselves. Now, something could have happened on or around November 4th, 2018, give or take a few weeks before or after, where you could have had some kind of thoughts around, here are the things that are working in my business, and here are the things that are no longer working. So I'm going to let these things fall by the wayside, and I'm going to continue on with the things that are working. It's about expanding whatever it is you're doing. But it could have started with, oh, I'm really tired of XYZ in this area and I just need to fix this.
And there it was. One of the most important and most difficult decisions I've had to make in my business was in the stars and revealed to me. I went from having a team to not having a team from one day to another.
Like I said, it expands whatever it touches. So it could have been expanding what was no longer working, right? Because it's a new, fresh energy, which means not everything's going to make the cut, right? Sometimes that includes people. Which leads me into the next piece of that fifth house, right? If you take a look at your birth chart, in your fifth house, you have this little planet here that goes by the name of Neptune. Everybody has Neptune somewhere in their chart. And I like to call Neptune the rose-colored glasses planet. Or the planet that shows us where we may need to strengthen our boundaries. It happens to be in your fifth house of your creative self-expression, also known as the entrepreneurial house or the home-based business house, because that's creativity. The Neptune being in that fifth house in the sign of Sagittarius, as it is right here, tells me that you, because of what's in your chart, one thing that is very important for you in this lifetime in particular is to make sure that you uphold what is true for you, because Sagittarius is all about the truth. But Neptune makes it kind of challenging because Neptune is very closely related to the sign of Pisces, because that energy can be very compassionate and empathetic and want to see the best in people. And it could be a little bit idealistic wherever Neptune is, which is why I call it the rose-colored glasses planet. You're like, let me just put these glasses on and all of this will go away and it'll look so much softer. And then you take them off and you're like, holy crap, this is not good. This is not good, right? So it's where we do carry a lot of empathy and compassion, and we do find it difficult to confront uncomfortable situations because we just want to stay in that peace, right? We don't really want to have to really address things that sometimes can be uncomfortable. But when good old Jupiter showed up on the scene, he said, we're not going to have that. We are going to address this, and you're going to find the courage or the voice or the confidence or the self-love, whatever it is that you need to take a stand and to reassess the boundaries and to make changes where necessary. Because whatever it changed up for you in this area is going to have a huge impact on the next 12 years of this cycle.
It was like she was reading a diary of mine. I was shocked to hear the date because it was exact to when I saw the shift begin to take place in my business. And the last thing I expected her to bring up was the other side of what was taking place, where I was setting boundaries. And most of these boundaries were set for the first time in my life. After I set those boundaries, I began to work towards getting comfortable with setting boundaries moving forward.
Now we have to get into the deeper stuff. And the first thing that I look at is the North Node and the South Node. Have you ever heard of them?
I've heard of them,
okay.
Yes.
So the North Node and the South Node are always 100% going to be totally opposite from one another. When I look at the upside down little horseshoe, this represents a person's past life experience, right? Experiences that you've accumulated through past lives and you brought with you into this lifetime. Over here is the North Node, which is about the personal destiny path in this present lifetime. So we have past, present. So in order to see where somebody is headed, I'd like to see where they've been, because we bring these past life energies with us, and some of them are really, really positive and they serve us well. It's also the place where we feel the most comfortable when things get uncomfortable. When things get uncomfortable, like oftentimes we will automatically resort back to this type of behavior here because we already know it. We already know how it works. What's unknown to us would be this guy over here. He's in the North Node position. Interestingly enough, for you, it looks like in one or more lifetimes, you had a whole lot to do with humanitarian type of situations where it was always about the people, right? It's always about others. But it was so much about others and what was best for the group, the tribe.
In this moment, there was so much I was trying to process. From her explaining that my past life, or what was in the South Node, was an experience that I always felt comfortable and resorted to because it was uncomfortable to embody what is in my North Node, to trying to process the way I behaved in a past life. All I could think about was Shanaka. And not just Shanaka, but of course everyone that was in the cave with Shanaka. If you haven't heard my past life regression, I will link that episode in the description for you to listen to. Shanaka was the person I was in my past life. I feel a deep connection to everyone that was in the cave with Shanaka. And so many of our listeners have also felt that they have embodied the women described in the cave.
But it was so much about others and what was best for the group, the tribe, that you really did not ever develop your own individual identity outside of the group. That everything you did was literally for the group of the people. And so you didn't really like to stand apart, or you didn't like to be considered special or any of those things, because your main focus was, but wait, I have to do this for all of us. It has to be for everybody. It's more like a universal thing. And so having validation, appreciation, applause, anything that recognition, you didn't want that. That's not what your thing was, unless it was going to somehow help you help everybody else. But in this lifetime, there's still a part of you that still carries that energy. However, in this lifetime, you are here to experience, because you have to balance it now, okay? You're here to experience the opposite of that as well. So you're no longer here to just be part of the group.
It was right in about this moment that I felt my heart drop. And I'm still trying to process why that statement makes me so emotional. I began to cry as I listened to her go on.
So you're no longer here to just be part of the group. You're actually here now to let your light shine and to allow for some appreciation and some recognition, because even though your soul needs to experience this in this lifetime, you're still going to use it for the greater good of everybody else. It's not going to be about, now it's just going to be the Linda show. Even though it might feel like that to you sometimes, and that might make you a little squeamish, like, oh, am I being a little too out there? It's really not about that. It's about, can I allow my light to shine even brighter? Am I willing to stand apart so that I can reach more people? Ultimately, it's because you still want to help others, and there's nothing wrong with that. The fact that it is in the sign of Leo tells me that there's something about developing a healthy ego in this lifetime. And not to say you have an unhealthy one. It's literally saying, like, this soul needs to develop an ego, a healthy one in this lifetime, where it's okay to be an individual and to let your light shine. And this is something that you could have been battling with for many, many years. And on the outside, somebody might look at you with the podcast and your social media and think like, oh, she's got no problem letting her light shine. But according to this chart, it's been a bit of a journey.
Yes.
See why I told you it's a deeper astrology now? I had to take you in from into the deeper waters gradually. But share with me. I see that it got a little emotional for you.
Yes. Well, it got emotional because I can see how I can get comfortable still resorting to the South Node when a lot of attention comes towards me. I kind of just freeze and I want to stop and I don't want to continue, but there's a deeper desire in me to rise above that.
Yes.
When I'm standing in that light, I'm always very hyper aware of my egoic self to make sure that I understand that I'm doing this for the greater collective. I'm not feeding my ego. So it's exactly everything you described.
Yes, and yes to everything you just said. And, and that's why I really wanted to highlight this part, because as you move forward today after this session, my hope for you is that you remember this piece and you understand that this is part of your soul's journey in this lifetime. It's something that has to be experienced, because otherwise there's an imbalance, right? Because now you've only experienced one side of the coin and not the other. And now that does not make for a balanced soul. Now, there's two parts to this, because I told you the nature of the energy and the behavior, and like how you want to, like you said, you want to fade back into the group when the spotlight gets a little bit too bright, right? Mm-hmm. But it's because you are here to be an example. And in this house, your North Node is telling a story that you're also here to be an example of what it looks like to own your value, and to own your healthy sense of self-worth. And this is a very important piece for you to know this about the work that you're here to do, because the 8th house deals with deep psychological and emotional waters. It's telling me that in a previous lifetime, you pretty much mastered deep psychological and emotional waters. You mastered your emotional energy. You probably went through a lot of different things and experiences that would have caused you over time to eventually master your emotions. That doesn't mean that you don't have emotions in this lifetime or you don't think they're important. It's the opposite. You see the importance of it. You might have gone through tougher things than some people have. That maybe you've gone through things that would have really affected somebody on a whole other level, and maybe you just figured it out and made your way through because you've already done that. So in this lifetime, now you're here to master your financial energy.
Wait, what did she just say?
So in this lifetime, now you're here to master your financial energy.
Wow. I'm in shock, but I'm not in shock. But I thought all the ingesting of financial literacy was legit me going crazy. I never in a million years would have thought that it's like really deeply, truly my soul's purpose for this lifetime. I think I said that in the last episode, but I didn't know it was literally written in the stars.
And when I say master your financial energy, I'm talking on every level. I'm talking debt, I'm talking income, I'm talking your relationship with money, with abundance, with valuing yourself, earning money, sharing money, spending it, saving it, all of the above. You're here to master the material energy and not to become materialistic, but to even out the scale. Because there's a tendency in the past to give it all away. Whatever you made, like, oh, let me help this person, let me help this person. And then maybe it kind of left you in a position where it didn't quite pan out for you financially. And in this lifetime, you really want to take a very grounded, practical approach to your money and your finances. You're coming from a past life where you mastered the metaphysical realm, which is probably why you're really good at the work that you do now. Whatever that is, the metaphysical realm, right? Beyond the physical. Even though you had a lot of deeply emotional, psychological experiences, you mastered that too because you had no choice. But in this lifetime, you're like, oh, this soul needs to master the actual material world now. Yeah. And it happens to be that money is energy that also becomes material through the roof over your head or the vehicle that you drive yourself around in.
I'm still processing so much of what Monica shared with me on my birth chart. If you've been with me on this journey, then you know how on point she is. And you can also see that the fears that I had are really not existent. It was a perception that I had of what could potentially take place. This is why I absolutely love to explore and venture out into areas that are unknown for me, because I get to remove the fear. I get to remove that energy, hone in on my power, and walk in with confidence, or at least help the energy shift so that I can walk out of the situation with confidence. I also want to just disclose that Monica didn't know me prior to this reading. She wasn't a listener of the podcast. We got introduced by Brandy for the very first time. Next week, we're going to do a part 2 with her, where we are going to review the human design chart. I am so excited for this experience. I can't wait to share it with you. Monica is gifting you instant access to a video that goes over your astrology chart if you're a beginner. So you can click on the link that is going to be located in the description of this episode, and you can download this free video and a handout that will give you more detailed information about what a chart is. And she's not only gifting us that, but she's also gifting complimentary 20-minute astrology sessions if you go to a link that is also located in the description of this podcast. I do want to let you know that if you're listening to this in the way off future, this offer might no longer be available, so just be mindful of that. But I would encourage you to still give it a shot. Also, be mindful that if everyone hits her up at the same time, there might be a delay in response, and there could also potentially be a limited of people that she's willing to do the complimentary readings for. Just hit her up as soon as possible if you're wanting to get this done, is really what I'm trying to say. As I mentioned, both of those links will be available in the description. If you're new to the podcast, I have all sorts of experiences like this. Just browse through the episodes and you can find them. I also want to just give a really special thank you for all of your love and all of your support. If you receive value from the information that I gift you on this podcast, please know that I do it with all of my love, all of my heart, also my blood and my sweat and my tears, meaning I work really hard to get the content out to you, the recording, the editing, the preparation, everything that goes into creating this content. It would mean so much to me if you would head over to iTunes, rate and review the podcast. We are currently at 341 reviews, and I would love to get us up to 400. And in order for me to do that, I need your help. So if you haven't rated or reviewed yet, please head over to iTunes, rate and review. It would be a huge form of compensation, of energy, if you gifted that to me. I appreciate you so much. And if you wanted to take it a step even further, if you're loving everything about Let There Be Luz and what I'm creating, what our community is doing, then please head over to Patreon. The link is in the bio to join our Patreon family. I push out so much content over there. I have monthly Q&As where I do coaching. I have monthly moon rituals where we do a lot of sacred work together in community. And when we don't have a ritual, we have a workshop. We do have a really special workshop coming up that I'm not going to mention. You're going to have to find out over on Patreon. I push out so much content and I make it extremely affordable for only $8 a month. Look at it as like your spiritual gym. It's a great investment. I'm always over there, not to mention the family, the tribe is absolutely incredible and powerful, and we are all here to support and uplift each other. I love you all so much. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Stay tuned for next week. May the light within grow stronger. It's 2 a.m. in the morning. If you're still listening right now, please know I am so fucking tired and I'm ready to go to bed. But I wanted to get this episode out to you as soon as possible. So don't forget to go to iTunes, give your girl 5 stars and a nice rating. I mean, a review. The rating is the 5-star, but then type in the review. Okay, I gotta go to bed.